ladies and gentlemen? My name is DJ Reg West, and welcome to Wave Files. Today, we have a good friend of mine who is an illustrious DJ. He's been fortunate and works his butt off to provide some amazing sounds for the NBA, for Rutgers, and a whole bunch of other things that we'll talk about throughout this podcast episode. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to my good friend, DJ M.I.L. M.I.L, what up, brother?
What's the good word, Red?
Everything is amazing, man. Everything is amazing. I know we talked off air, but again, thank you for taking some time to be with us today on Wave Files and just be able to tell your story and you know, give somebody some advice on life and how we should be moving right now. So thank you so much, brother.
For sure.
Let's start at the beginning. We're gonna jump around a little bit during this podcast, but let's start at the beginning. How did you become DJ M.I.L?
You know what's crazy? I was who I am before M.I.L or M.I.L. Goodness, man. Like everyone else, started with in my mom's basement, making tapes, mixtapes, all of the above, man. I
Yes.
posted something on social media the other day about how it's hard to believe that it started with 2 Gemini turntables and a mixer, man, back in the day, right?
The direct drives or the belt.
You know, it's funny. Gemini, I know, knock on them, man. I know they're no longer a player in the game or a major player in the game. But I mean, you know, I came from, I want to say nothing, but not much, Reg. And I remember, man, that was my reality, man. Everyone else had 1200s and, you know, all of the above. And I knew from there, man, it wasn't about what equipment I played on. It's what I brought to that equipment that I played on. I knew that it was all about prep and, you know, honing my skills. And I was going to be different, not because of the gear I was on. I was going to be different because what I brought to the table.
Facts.
But yeah, man. And, you know, just playing college parties. You know what? A lot of people don't know about me and they actually are surprised, man. I skipped the whole club scene. I never had to do that. Never even wanted to do that. I don't know how I would have gotten where I would have gotten if it weren't for the breaks that I had and the people in my life, but I'm here, so I'm grateful and I'm happy. But I did the college party circuit, did all of that stuff. And you know, without naming names, man, I was in the YMCA, goodness, many years ago here in New Jersey, man.
Okay.
Dude was like, yo, on my tape, man, where's my tape? Where's my tape? I'm like, yo, okay, here, man. You know, back in them days, people give you 120-minute tape, right? Like you ain't had nothing better to do. Long story short, man, person was playing basketball, ended up being an exec in the Knicks organization, man. Was like, you play music, you DJ? I was like, all right, you want to tape too? Long story short, man, I was on a Monday. I was filling out paperwork at the Garden on that following Thursday. Associate music director at MSG, which was a blessing, right? Because that person was with the Knicks, but because it was under the MSG umbrella, that Rangers, Knicks, and Liberty fell. So me going from college parties and, you know, working a real job, trying to, you know, make it, turned out to be busy at least year round because the Knicks and Rangers pretty much the same season, but the Liberty was in the summer. So that's how I got my start, man. And from there, I just, you know, built my networks, fostered the relationships I had, and just did me, man. Fortunately for me, I was a solid businessman. Well, not solid. I had a business mindset back then. And then, you know, I knew I wanted to do more than just regular games and things like that. Long story short, that's how I got my break into the sports and entertainment.
Well, let me go back to something you mentioned earlier. You ain't missed nothing with the clubs, bro. Let me tell you right now. I've had my fun in that area. It's nice, but if you can, that's something I try to teach the younger kids who ask me, like, how did you get here? Everybody has their own path. I'm glad you were able to tell that story. That's amazing. Now, can you tell us how long you've been with the organization? Not to date you, but how long have you been within the organization?
Well, put it this way. I was at the Garden for 10 years, from 2004 to 2014. Went after that, went to the Nets for my first go around. Some not conflicts, but just some leadership changes and things like that caused me to leave the Nets, and then got brought back 3 seasons ago with not completely different role, but different than when I was there the first time. I was everything, right? I was the music coordinator and official DJ, which, you know, that's what I was used to doing, everything. So everything at a game you hear musically, with the exception of sound on tape, the videos and stuff, I did everything. They brought me back as a music coordinator where I was just doing in games. We could, you know, talk about that in detail, but yeah, so, you know, no dates. I mean, you know, it's funny you say that because I don't know when it happened, but it definitely happened that I became the elder statesman, right? In this, and, you know, DJing and music, curation, you know, coordination and all of that stuff. It's not a young person's game, but depending on the audience, you know, you may need to have certain experiences.
Right. That's a
But
fact.
yeah, yeah. But I for sure became the elder statesman, and it's cool. I embraced it, man. I embrace it, still do. In fact, I embraced it so much so that you know, I went and started a new you know, arm of my company, which we'll get into with my talent and consulting. So, you know, it's, you know, it's all about experience, journey, and what you get from both to, you know, put you on your course to where you're going.
Now, you mentioned businessman earlier in the
Mhm.
conversation, and you being in the NBA bubble, we'll get to that part of it later, but you've been afforded opportunities within the NBA, outside of the Nets, outside of the Knicks,
Mhm.
and done some traveling. Can you talk about the organizations that you've dealt with in that, and where you've gone and what you've seen?
So, you know, without going too much into the NBA and how they do their business, when I first started, yeah, I think my first global games, it's what it's called, was 2012, I think. So global games is preseason, NBA preseason, that they do globally. So back then they were using vendors. I was a vendor, even though I was with a team. It was, you know, you know, basically my business structure. Now they use team assets, and they bring people from, you know, the teams to do these events. So global games for the most part is what got me to see the world. You know, we did two cities, two countries, a preseason. I ended up doing for about 5 years. I think my first one was in Germany, and my goodness, Barcelona, Spain. Next year was Turkey and Manchester, UK, and then, you know, a couple trips to China. Went China 3 times. Just actually forgetting some cities, but, you know, they brought the NBA to those countries. You know, obviously to grow the game, the international reach. And I was tasked to provide the DJ services and the music coordinator at those international contests.
Now, can you've mentioned music coordinator and DJ in tandem before, but can
Mhm.
you elaborate a little bit more so people who are a little more layman to those terms on the difference?
For sure. You know, I will, absolutely. Great question, by the way, because as I mentioned before in my journey, you know, and from a businessman, I find that people equate DJ with, you know, just an event person, whether
Right.
it's, you know, a tour DJ, whether it's a club DJ that we spoke on, whether it's a wedding DJ, right? Which is no knock on that. I mean, heck, my company structure, I still have an arm that services high-end weddings and private events, corporate events. But the term DJ, you know, it's really, you know, just from a skill set perspective, right? DJs to me is the start, right? That's where I learned to beat match and read a crowd and know how to blend records and things like that. When you get into, you know, like a music coordinator, um, you know, you can be a DJ. You could start out as a DJ, as I certainly did, but it takes on different layers in terms of how you approach the event, where you may not be so concerned with beat matching as opposed to picking the right song, knowing what to play, when to play, and for how long to play it in said you know, environment. And then you get up to music director, music curator, all of which, you know, I used to spend a lot of time to try to explain and teach people. But at the end of the day, people are going to fall back on what their thoughts are. They equate music with DJ, and that's it. And, you know, which is okay. But when you start getting into different roles and the level of those roles, it's not always aligned with the level of compensation, right? The very
Right.
end of the day, I do what I do because I love it. but I'm a family man as well as a businessman. I have to provide for myself and my family, right? So, a DJ is there's value in that. I'm a DJ, you're a DJ, but we're also more than DJ. Just like a human, right? A person is more than just a person. They're a father, they're a businessman, they're mentors, they're educators. But you can't just lump, oh, that's a person. No. The different layers. I know I'm getting philosophical on you.
No. Keep going, brother. People need to hear this, please.
But there's many different layers. There's many different approaches to that. So yeah, as a DJ music coordinator, that's usually what I like to use because I do have elements of the event that I DJ, like, in a basketball setting, right? They'll have doors open, right? So that's when all the fans, pre-COVID and hopefully soon to be post-COVID.
Yes.
When fans enter the building, you have to have music being played, right? So the benefit that I have as a DJ is that I don't just push buttons. I actually take some time and put out a set, build a set, and play. People want to hear those transitions. They want to hear, oh, okay, not just starting, stopping, and that awkward silence between songs. So that's the DJ role, right? So and then the layup lines when they're doing warm-ups. Players, they want to hear their music as they would hear it in a club or an event or something like that.
Well, so let's pause right there. So
right.
You said players want to hear their music. Now, do players have requests that get to you somehow, and do you accommodate them?
So let me back you up just slightly. Technically, I'm the music coordinator for the Nets this go round. There's
Hold
a
on.
DJ on staff that he does. And to answer your question, yes, it doesn't get to me. I'm not in direct contact with the players, but it does get channeled to myself and the DJ on along that I work with. Yeah, we absolutely try to accommodate. If that comes all the way up, it makes sense to accommodate. That's as a DJ, you want that input, you want that feedback, that guidance, right? Yeah. So yeah, you do incorporate that. Like you mentioned, I've done the Knicks and the Nets, two different cultures, same state, different borough, two different cultures, right? What I'm playing at the Knicks, 10 years ago is not what I'm playing at the Nets now, and vice versa. So absolutely, the players are similar. They want the same requests, but the build of the game, the event is obviously different. And, that's where you get into more of the music coordinator, the music curator, or even music director, right? Which is more of on the management side of things. You do take the time to say, hey, who are we playing for? What do they want to hear? We got 18,000 people, and we can't play hip hop or trap all day. We can't play high energy beats all day. What's our demographic? How are we going to play music suitable that they want to hear?
Got you. Now you mentioned 18,000 people. Last season you were one of the DJs or the DJ for the NBA bubble. Is that correct, sir?
I was one of 4 music coordinators, actually the lead music coordinator. 3 other teams participated.
Now, how was that experience versus a full packed 18,000 screaming, raving fans that drive you as a DJ music coordinator to shift the music this way, to shift the music that way? Because like most DJs, a music coordinator can move on. You move on the fly. If we're down 3, you playing music versus you up 10. It's different. It's a different energy.
Absolutely.
Now, with nobody in the stands, how are you judging where you're going? Are your outlets a little less? Like, are you just thinking about, okay, since we sometimes play this when we're down 10, I'll try this versus XYZ because there's no energy in the room?
Well, it's funny you said we usually play this. So as you may or may not know, there were 22 teams that made it to the bubble.
Right.
As a lead music coordinator, I helped set out a template for each of the 22 teams to submit music elements for their home show.
Now, when you say elements, are you talking about like the dun 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 dun?
Right. Yep. Okay. Pre-game. I'm sorry. After game, after after basket hits, intro sequence, song preference, what we call a hot timeout. If the play on the court for the home team, causes the opponent or the away team to go on a timeout, call a timeout based on a run, that's a hot timeout. So we usually lead with high energy music for that, which obviously resonates with you when you have a full arena. So we had 22 teams submit. We asked 22 teams to submit elements for their home game, for their home show. We tried to replicate as best as we can, to integrate those within those games in an empty arena. It was pretty clear that we're going to be playing for the players, right? Yeah. It's going to be, it's catered to them. So even in those hot timeouts, certain teams, they didn't want that up-tempo beat. They wanted hip hop. The teams, some of them had input. The teams listened to the input of the players and like, no. One team even said, no, actually, here's some specific songs that the players asked for each one. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty, granular, but we made it happen. That's what they requested, and we tried our best to accommodate.
That's awesome.
What's up?
I said that's awesome.
Right, and for those that didn't give us that granular approach, we treated it as such. They gave us some of the hot timeouts, bumpers, or the bumpers or pumpers were the ones that you play going back into play after the timeout. So so it took some work. You definitely need to be organized, right? So there you go. Not all DJs are not organized, but not all DJs are organized, right?
That's very true.
You and I can get into that all day. I mean, we definitely tried our best to accommodate those teams, what they want, and or if they didn't say what they wanted, we treated it like a home NBA game. So the ebbs and flows we follow with the appropriate music tempos and styles and so on.
Now with like you mentioned home games, so being a fan and watching from home, to be honest, it seemed like it was a great thing to watch. Like the ability of the space being so small and encased that it didn't give the vibe that it wasn't an empty arena, but you knew that because you didn't hear the audience and you didn't see them. It just, the music helped. Let me just say that flat out. The music was an assist, like John Stockton. You know what I mean? Like, if there was no music there, we wouldn't get the same energy or vibe without that. And the bubble would probably be more of a, it was okay with the energy vibe, Right.
It's been like Summer League. No, for sure. I mean,
like Summer League.
Yes.
I couldn't find those words. Yes, that's exactly
and I wasn't
right.
in those discussions. I wasn't part of that, but I would imagine, if I were, I'd be like, hey, we want to be less like that and more like, let's see if we could do that. But no doubt, Reg. I mean, M.I.L, right? DJ M.I.L, right? That stands for Music is Life.
Nice.
I mean, without music, a lot of things would be different, right? Including an NBA game.
That's facts.
So when you got,
I want to touch on your name in a second, but right. Before we get to that, can you tell me how much as you can, how the finals went about? Because before it aired, I was like, how are they going to create this excitement of a championship being won without people in the stands, without fans being there? The grandeur it isn't going to be as lively. So can you talk about that as much as you can? Your end of it, at least.
Reg, I don't know if that's the case, right? I understand that approach, but one thing, my major takeaway from the bubble, right, is, we got back to basketball.
That's facts.
Right? We got back to basketball. I think a lot of it, because that's all we've been used to, the pre NBA bubble finals and championships, right? It's always been the team traveling, and it's always been the media build up, and it's always been the different narratives and storylines. So I think people were like, okay, well, this one didn't get in trouble in this market before the game, so there's no storyline there. But I think it worked because it was back to basketball. These players went at each other's, we gotta be careful what we say these days.
Yeah.
They went at each other, they played the ball every game. And I don't know if it was different in the sense that it was just, better than. I just think it was different in the sense that it's just a slight evolution. Hey, we could still have basketball at a competitive championship NBA level and still have fun on the broadcast. The NBA did a wonderful job.
That they did.
Putting that broadcast to make it fit. If you were plucked from another country or another planet for that matter, right? That's how large the NBA is.
Absolutely.
And we're shown a broadcast from finals 10 years prior, and then just watch the NBA finals in the bubble. You wouldn't be so quick to say, hey, obviously the graphics look different on the court. You didn't see the wide pans of the fans, but from a basketball and audible, standpoint, it was similar to me, if not almost the same. Wonderful job for the NBA. They brought professionals like myself on to assist. I played my role. Other professionals played their role, and it worked to me like a champ.
Now, let me ask one last thing about the bubble, and we'll move on. How was it for you personally, being away from your family for that long period of time, being in the bubble?
Yeah, 3 months is tough being away from your family. Even if you're an entrepreneur that works more than you play. At the very end of the day, we're people, man. And, we need contact. The bubble itself wasn't difficult. It was just different. It was, hey, this is the world we're in. This is what we need to do to get, accomplish what we want to accomplish. Other than that, Reg, it was a business trip. A
long business trip.
A long business trip. But, it was the whole historical context aspect of it, right? Like, I don't know that we'll have another one. If we don't have another one, I'm cool with that. But I was a part of that, and
and that's nothing no one can ever take from you, brother. That, and you led the music for the event. So
right. I mean, it's one of those things. I thought that my trip in 2016 to Rio for the Olympics was the milestone, right? I mean. And clearly it is, right? Olympics is on the international scale, right? International level, and it did everything that I expected it to do for me. But this NBA experience in the bubble was special. It was definitely special.
Now let's jump to that, since you mentioned the Olympics. Please tell me, how did you get involved with the basketball team for the 2016 Olympics, please?
So the short answer is my experience. At that time, I was already working with the league as a vendor business, partner, for almost a decade. And it was, again, my relationships that I fostered, having gone, from the Garden, and working with people, networks. I got a call. Hey, would you be interested? The way the Olympics do things, in my experience, they do what they call test events. So they have, they literally test the venue, the facilities, and make sure. So they put on a game and they run like it's a rehearsal. And I got a call. I want to say September, October, for a test event. Obviously, the games would be in July, and that was that. That's how that started off for me for the Olympics.
And how was it for you?
Interestingly enough, I declined the test event for whatever reason. It's like, again, the business side of things, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say it didn't work for me at that. It didn't align. And then full transparency, Reg. I didn't do it. Someone else did it. They had a great time. I saw on their social media, and then I'm like, wait, man, this is the Olympics. This is the Olympics. So I made the calls, and I said, hey, I'm available. I'm interested and available, and it worked out. And I ended up becoming the director of music for men's and women's basketball in Rio, which was surreal, right? Men's basketball. I mean, I'm a basketball fan. You're a basketball fan.
Facts.
That's like, if not the biggest draw. I know swimming, and then obviously Usain Bolt was a big part of it. But a lot of people thrown in for the basketball, right? I ended up doing the medal game, gold medal game, and the ceremony presentation, which was like surreal, right? Here I am doing the gold medal game. USA's up. I don't even remember who they played, but I was.
It don't matter.
I was like, this is so crazy. You know, all the stars that you would imagine were playing, and they're just going up and back. And then I end up doing the metal presentation. That's all. So again, right? So back to that DJ component, right? So you know, a DJ, you're not DJing the metal ceremony, right? I guess if I can explain to someone the difference, you're DJing an event that's dancing and things like that. When you get into picking music for certain pieces, certain time frames, elements, that's when you start getting to the music coordinator, curators, and director of music. But that medal ceremony was surreal. I mean, you know, as the gold medal, they put the medal. They thought, you know, my hit was the specific song that I had, you know, picked out. I was like, wow, this is so cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, it was surreal. But at the time, you know, that was it for me, and it still is. That there's two different events in the sense that milestones for me than the bubble, but that was cool. You know, I'll do another Olympics. I know Tokyo is been affected by this
Right.
pandemic,
Right.
but I am looking forward. If not Tokyo, you know, some conversation. But if not Tokyo, you know, Paris is now 3 years away, right, instead of 4 because of the delay. So
Right.
we'll see. You know, we'll
That's
see how it works out.
awesome. I wanna take it back to something you mentioned earlier in our conversation about you didn't do clubs, you were doing college events.
Mhm.
You still do college events with Rutgers.
Right.
Can you talk about Rutgers and your involvement with their organization?
So Rutgers Athletics, I partner with my company, my parent company's Big Man Entertainment. You know, my DBA is LSM Talent and Consulting. So it's live sports, music, talent, and consulting. So Rutgers was my first collegiate contract or account, where I provide music direction, talent, and consulting for their revenue sports. So that's football, men's and women's basketball. So whether it's myself or other people within my organization, we provide music at game day for those events.
Awesome.
There, so you know, we were there for that rebuild, and you know, the product on the court is awesome. It's great. You can see the growth, and it's great to be a part of that, right? You know, I was bringing my A game to the floor, court, or field, or playing area to begin with. So it's great that now, you know, these players and these coaching staff are finding success on the playing fields and arenas. And it's just it's awesome, man. I mean, you know, it started many years ago, right? That business mindset. Hey, you know, I'm love being at the Garden. You know, and not too many people started the Garden, by the way, so that
Nope.
wasn't lost on me, right, at all. You know, so if you're starting there, you know, I complacency was not an option for me, right? It's like, okay, where can I take this?
Right.
For me, it was in my business models and structure, and you know, branching out, and you know what, Reg, I told you I didn't start from much, you know, in life, and it's true, right? I mean, if it weren't for this person, they gave me an opportunity at the Garden. I mean, you know, what would I be doing? Who knows, right? Only time knows that answer, right? And the Lord knows that answer. But
Facts.
my part of me is, you know, I definitely want to give back, Reg. I want to give opportunity like I was granted an opportunity, right? You know, part of my company, I train people, I train DJs that want to become music coordinators and ultimately director of music like I was at the Rio Olympics, right? And this business model is something that I utilize to train, and then I turn around and staff them for said events. So it's a blessing for me to be able to do that. I mean, you know, I'm going to play music for as long, you know, as I can hear, right?
Right.
But you know, it's not all about me. How many people can I give an opportunity to play music for thousands of people at a time?
Now, with that being said, that's a very important statement because that's something that a lot of DJs have to do with these past 9 months, 10 months of COVID. People have had to shift. They've had to pivot. People who
Mhm,
were club DJs are no longer DJing. People
mhm.
who were event DJs, wedding DJs, they're not really DJing anymore. So their
Right.
income that they had or that they just focused on is gone. I have friends
Uh,
of mine who they were posting on Instagram daily. I'm at this
right.
club. I'm at that club. I'm doing this. They've put their Instagram on timeout because what's the point? They're not working and
Right.
they're trying to pivot. So you making that statement about wanting to teach younger DJs how to grow is I feel is super important. It's super great for your karma. You know what I mean? When I talk to younger individuals, I always try to teach them to diversify. You don't have to diversify outside of DJing. Just diversify your DJing skills. You can become a music coordinator off your DJ skills. It's just an advancement. Am I right in that statement?
Absolutely. I mean, I go right back to my start at the MSG, right? I mean, goodness, I had the Knicks and the Rangers, two different demographics all together.
Facts.
Music styles, layered music styles within each one. So yeah, I mean, you want to, diversify and evolve. No, I mean, why wouldn't you? Okay, let me back up. I'm not going to ask why people wouldn't want to do something. I would encourage them to learn different music styles, different music formats, the different production, the different approaches, the different melodies. It's just, natural progression. You want to learn more. I mean,
often it's a mentor that helps with that, though.
True.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
just from my experience, when I was in my 20s, if I didn't have somebody hit me in the back of my head and say, look, there's more than just being a tour DJ, which I was doing a phenomenal time at that time.
Right.
You have to do more things.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get stagnant, and stuff like the COVID situation, the COVID wave is going to happen to you. So you have to figure out how to grow. So that's awesome.
I agree. I mean, that old saying, what is that? I forget the name of it, but one of that get ready. So, be ready. So you don't have to get ready or whatever that whole thing is. Right. I mean, that couldn't be more true. And it's nuanced, right? It's, you could be the baddest club DJ, but what do you do? What is your contingency when the club closes, right?
And not just that, when you age yourself out, because club DJs, let's keep it honest. A 23-year-old doesn't want to hear a 50-year-old tell them what's popping. They don't.
They don't even want to see a 50-year-old playing in the club, regardless if they playing bangers. You look at that and like, okay, it sounds good. I mean, especially with the social media and because back in the day, we're not gonna date. I'm not gonna date myself, date yourself, but we're old enough to know that it used to be, hey, it doesn't matter. He sounds good. He or she is popping. It's good. I'm rocking with that. Now it's a look associated with the sound, and it's yeah.
I remember when I started DJing that you could be just wearing a dirty white tee and be okay.
But you're playing some gems and you dropping some clean transitions. You're like, oh, okay,
right.
The head nod approval, right?
Not the case anymore.
Now
not
it's
the
all
case.
Celebrity based, and now you got people that look way better than they sound, and the people that sound way better than they look are all the way in the back, and they're getting less opportunity. Yeah, it's different. It's a different game, and I'm not pulling anybody from the club saying, hey, you're not gonna do that anymore. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, hey, there's this over here too, right? You could travel the borough and work in the clubs, or you could travel the world and work in some stadiums and arenas. And it's just, I'm not force feeding anybody. I'm just saying, hey, Reg, let me be clear. I'm not casting a huge net saying, come one, come all.
No.
I've had some people that hit me up directly. Hey, man, I love what you're doing. It's not a, hey, I want to be like you. I want to learn, because at the very end of the day, you could be like somebody if you like, but you could be the best version of yourself. And if that means you're better than the next person, then so be it. But the idea is I can offer you some insight, some direction, and some training on how to do what I was able to do. I wonder, man, how far would I have been if I had that mentor? I'm not taking for granted my experiences and what I've accomplished. But, you always ask yourself, how much better can you be, with the proper direction? And hey, I'm not going to ask those questions too much because I'm happy the way I turned out. I'm happy where I'm going. I'm even more grateful that I'm able to bring other people along and expose them to this. I appreciate you, Reg, for having this platform because people still don't get it. Hey, he's a DJ. If you notice, I didn't put DJ M.I.L here, right? It's Courtney.
It is Courtney right on my screen.
It's funny, man. Recently, this is my my battle that I choose to fight. I find that I say DJ, it's okay, as opposed to no, I'm Courtney, the chief executive for my company, and immediate body language, tone, how they address me is different. It's weird. I'd love to, maybe in another life I'll explore the psychology behind that, right? But for now, what works for me is I'm not, I'm still a DJ at heart. I grew up, like I said, my mother's basement beat matching, but I'm so much more than a DJ these days. And it's weird. That's my journey. That's my unique. I find myself in meetings in boardrooms more so nowadays than I do in in venues and things like that.
And that's progression. That's what that is. You know what I mean? And you might start in a club. You might start doing Sweet 16s. You might start at a bat mitzvah, but where you end up is all on you. And
yeah, absolutely.
M.I.L, I know we're running short on time today, but can you please tell the people where they can find you, your website, and how they can gain more knowledge from you directly?
Absolutely. My social media is DJ M.I.L NYC. That's one word. DJ M.I.L NYC. LSM Talent. That's that's as in live sports music talent, as in event talent or production talent. Those are the social media outlets, and lsmtalent.com. I'm open, Reg. I know you're accomplished in your own right, and I know you have some viewerships and some great following. If people choose to log on to the website and see what we're about, what I'm doing, by all means, reach out to me via social media, or a little button on the site to contact me, man. If that's what they really want to do, that's their passion. I'm here, man. I'm here to give back. It's funny, legacy. I've thought about my legacy more in the last handful of years than I've ever thought. I have kids, and that comes with it, right? It's hand in hand. But I'm gonna put on for my kids. That's just the way it is, right? There's no option. But I'm also going to put on for other people's kids, right? I'm also going to provide and give opportunity, mentorship, even if they don't, work with my company, if they just have questions. I'm all for it, man. This individual that, I didn't need saving back in the day, right? I wasn't on the road to wherever, but this person gave me an opportunity, and I'm grateful, man. I am grateful, and I'm paying it forward, paying it back, however, that expression goes. So DJ M.I.L NYC, LSM Talent, at DJ M.I.L NYC, at LSM Talent.
As he said, ladies and gentlemen, this is my good friend Courtney, aka DJ M.I.L. You can hit him up, and he can guide you along the way as much as he's willing to choose to. Courtney, man, I appreciate your time. I hope the people out there at least gain some knowledge from our conversation here today. Maybe we can continue this at a later date. I'd appreciate it if we could.
Sure. Let's do it again, man. I'm even open to splitting. I know I got a lot of different tentacles, man, that I do different things. And if you ever wanted to get one and focus on something, I mean, because at the end of the day, Reg, this dialogue is you and me. We're catching up, but somebody's potentially benefiting from it, right? And for me, that's what it's all about.
That's a fact. That's a fact. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing Wave Files with Reg West. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my friend Courtney, DJ M.I.L. You can find him in a Brooklyn arena tearing it down when COVID is over. We'll see you soon. All right, Reg West, we out. Wave Files.